They say when your heart breaks, it's not loud. Mine shattered in complete silence. I came home early that day, just wanted to change, grab a quick shower. I didn't even notice the car parked a little off down the street. Didn't register the second coffee mug on the kitchen counter. I walked in like any other day, dropped my bag, loosened my tie, and headed straight for the bedroom. The bed was moving. My wife, Lisa, was under someone else. In our sheets. In my house. In the middle of the afternoon. I didn't speak. Didn't blink. Just stood there. It felt like someone had cracked the bone behind my eye. She screamed when she saw me. The guy didn't stop right away. He thought it was a joke. Or maybe he was too into himself to notice what was about to hit him. I dragged him off her like I was pulling a weed from the ground. Threw him so hard into the dresser that one of the drawers snapped off. Then I punched him. And again. And again. Until his blood was on my knuckles. I don't even remember the sounds he made. When I had enough, I dragged his naked body through the hall and out the front door. No mercy. No words. I chucked his wallet and keys onto the grass. But not his clothes. Let him figure that out. When I came back inside, Lisa was sobbing. I didn't say a word. Just stared at her like she was a stranger. Kevin, please, This isn't what it looked like. I almost laughed. No? Looked a lot like betrayal. It just happened. I wasn't thinking. Was he better? She flinched like I'd slapped her. I stepped closer. You know what? It doesn't matter. You've got 1 hour. Take your things. If you're still here when I get back, I'll throw you out just like I did him. She begged, cried, called me cold. I left. I drove around until I didn't feel like crashing the car into a wall. I came back after 2 hours. She was gone. Most of her things too. The house was quiet again. Except for the note. I stood over the kitchen counter reading it like it might catch fire. It was exactly what you'd expect. I made a mistake. He was an old flame. I didn't mean to hurt you. Please take me back. She ended it with, I still love you. No, she didn't. People don't destroy what they love. I stood there, reading her words, and felt nothing. Not pain. Not even rage. Just emptiness. Like she'd reached inside and stolen whatever I used to be. Then I saw it. His name. Ryan. The guy I just dragged out of my home like a sack of trash. Now he had a name. A face. A voice I'd never forget. That was when something inside me changed. This wasn't about heartbreak anymore. This wasn't about moving on. It was about something else. Something sharp. Precise. Revenge. I didn't know how or when. But I knew this. Ryan had taken something from me. And I was going to take something from him. You don't plan revenge the way you plan dinner. It starts as a whisper. A thought you pretend isn't there. Until it becomes the only thing you think about. After Lisa left, I moved through life like a ghost. I still went to work. Ate alone. Slept even less. My phone stopped buzzing. My house stayed clean. And my calendar? Empty. I didn't even notice the seasons changing. But every time I shut my eyes, I saw his face. Ryan. Smirking. Sweating. Moving like he owned what was mine. I didn't know where he lived. Didn't care. I figured he'd disappear. Like most cowards do when the storm clears. But then one afternoon, random as a coin toss, I saw him. I was eating alone at the building cafe, usual corner table by the window. A group of women from upstairs walked in, laughing, loud. I barely looked up, until one of them kissed him. Ryan. He walked in like he belonged. Same greasy confidence. Wearing a badge for a company 2 floors up. He said something to the woman at his side, and she laughed. She touched his arm, and he leaned down to whisper in her ear. That's when I saw her clearly. She was nothing like Lisa. Short, petite frame. Bright eyes. The kind of laugh that sounded like it hadn't been beaten down by disappointment yet. Not flashy. Not desperate. Just real. Her hair was tied up, little strands falling out in places. She was wearing a dark green skirt and a white blouse. Not expensive, but she made it look good. I didn't know her name, but I wanted to. She looked at him like he was everything. And I knew better. I watched them leave. My coffee went cold. That night I didn't sleep. Not because I was angry, but because I felt something else. An idea. What if I didn't just get even? What if I made him feel exactly what I felt? Not with fists, but with a smile. The next few days I saw her again. Always at lunch, always with the same group. I started timing my breaks to match theirs. It wasn't hard. She worked in the same building. I learned where she sat, what she ordered, how she laughed when she was nervous. She had no idea who I was, and I wasn't ready for her to know. Not yet. One afternoon, she came in alone. No friends. No Ryan. I waited 5 minutes, then walked past her table like it was coincidence. Looked surprised. Hey, you work upstairs, right? I've seen you around. She looked up. Yeah, I think I've seen you too. You're from level 5. That's me, Kevin. I offered my hand. Calm. Friendly. She hesitated for a second, then shook it. Emily. Emily. Of course it was. We chatted. Casual stuff. I kept it simple. Safe. She told me she worked in system support for a firm called Metrotech. No kids. Married 3 years. Her husband transferred them out here for a fresh start. I smiled. Fresh starts can be good, I said. She nodded, then looked down at her drink. That was the first crack. That pause. That small silence. I didn't push it. Not yet. But I walked away from that lunch knowing 2 things. 1, she was too good for him. And 2, he didn't deserve her. The man who wrecked my life was married to a woman who still believed in his lies. And I was going to be the one to open her eyes. It's funny how fast a casual lunch can turn into routine. By the end of the week, Emily and I were sitting together almost every day. It never felt forced. I didn't flirt. I didn't probe. I just listened, asked questions, paid attention. Something her husband clearly hadn't done in a long time. She always smiled when she saw me. One of those honest smiles, the kind that comes without effort. We talked about nothing and everything. What books she liked. Why she hated her upstairs neighbors. How she couldn't cook to save her life but still burned spaghetti with confidence. Every day I peeled back another layer. And every day, I liked her more than I wanted to. One Thursday we were sitting near the window, usual spot. She was playing with the straw in her iced tea, not really drinking it. You ever feel like someone's not telling you the whole story? She asked. I leaned in. You mean like lying? No, not lying exactly. Just keeping something important from you. I didn't answer right away. Neither did she. Her hand was shaking a little. She set her glass down and looked out at the parking lot. I think my husband's cheating on me. It landed like a punch to the chest. I stayed quiet. Let her speak. I don't have proof. Just changes. The way he talks. The way he doesn't look at me when he says he's working late. I asked, do you trust him? I used to, she said. Now, I don't even know if I trust myself. For a second, I hated how much I liked her. She deserved better. And the fact that I was planning to use her, even if it was for revenge, it made me sick. But I also knew this. Ryan wasn't just some idiot who had a weak moment. He was a repeat offender. And if I didn't stop him, he'd do to her what he did to me. Maybe worse. I looked her in the eyes. I think you deserve the truth, I said. Emily nodded, slowly. So do I. We didn't talk much after that. Not until the next day. She showed up to lunch late. Alone again. A little tense. Sat down and looked like she'd made up her mind about something. I want to ask you something, she said. Anything. What would you do if you caught someone cheating on you? I didn't blink. I did, I said. And I ended it. She looked stunned. You were married? Yeah, for 7 years. What happened? I paused. I wanted to protect her from the worst of it. But I was done lying, even by omission. I walked in on my wife, I said. In our bed. With another man. Her hand covered her mouth. I kicked him out. Told her she had an hour to leave. She used 45 minutes. Emily swallowed hard. God, I'm so sorry. I'm not, I said. It taught me how to see clearly. She didn't speak, just nodded, like something clicked for her. Do you ever think about Getting back at them? She asked quietly. Every day. Her eyes met mine, and for a second, neither of us moved. That was the moment I knew. This wasn't about casual lunches anymore. It wasn't just revenge. It wasn't just her. Something bigger was coming. I just didn't know yet how deep it went. That night I started digging. Into Ryan. Into Emily's company. Into the cracks he tried to cover. And what I found, it wasn't just betrayal. It was criminal. I didn't go looking for dirt on Ryan expecting to find anything more than some flirty messages or hotel charges. I thought maybe I'd find out where he took Emily's trust to die and leave it at that. But what I found felt like falling through a trapdoor straight into something rotten. It started with a hunch. Emily mentioned once that she worked in system support for Metrotech, mostly helping people fix account access and back-end stuff. What she didn't know was that she had admin-level login permissions left over from a project 6 months back. She wasn't even supposed to have them anymore. I asked her to run a quiet audit on their internal mail server logs, just on her own credentials. Nothing flagged. Then I asked if she could check activity tied to her network ID but not from her computer. That's when she paused. There were logins from devices she didn't recognize, multiple times over the last 3 months. And not just during the day, middle of the night, weekends, holidays. All linked to client data folders. Specifically, investment portfolios. Ones that belonged to my former clients. The company had no idea. Emily looked pale when she realized it. I didn't do this, she said. Like she was confessing a crime she didn't commit. But someone used my access. From my desk. Or at least they wanted it to look like that. I asked for a copy of one of the folders they touched. She was hesitant, but I told her the truth. They used my name, Emily. My clients. My career. This is personal now. She handed it over. I ran the numbers. Cross-referenced transaction IDs with past emails I'd kept from old clients before the divorce. Dates didn't match up. Amounts were off. Entire accounts had been duplicated, but not with real people. Just fake identities barely different from the originals. Fake names. Fake returns. Real transfers. Whoever did this wasn't sloppy. This was pro-level fraud. We're talking phishing, shell companies, stolen client data, all masked behind her user ID. It was identity theft at a scale you don't see unless you're watching white-collar documentaries or sitting in a federal courtroom. The cherry on top? Some of the money was routed through a small dummy holding account, with Emily listed as an alternate beneficiary. Not primary, just enough to implicate her if things went south. Someone was setting her up, and I already knew who. Ryan didn't just cheat on his wife. He used her, her job, her access, her trust. While she worked late and brought him dinner, he was stealing everything he could through her identity. And Lisa? I wasn't sure yet, but that access she used to have back when we were still married? She probably never lost it. She was administrative staff. She handled payroll and compliance requests. She knew enough to open doors for Ryan, and enough to leave them open after she walked out. Emily was nearly shaking. I could lose my job. Worse, if they think I was part of this. They won't, I said. Not if we get ahead of it. She didn't answer. Just looked at me like I was the only person left on earth who could save her. That night we met at my place. Not to talk about feelings. Not to eat pizza and watch the news. We met to build a case. We mapped every login time. Every IP address. Every transaction. I called in a favor from an old tech client who owed me, and he helped us run full packet tracebacks. Confirmed it. Most of the suspicious traffic came from Ryan's machine. 2 others came from an unassigned laptop that matched Lisa's old work asset ID. They were both in on it. And they were getting sloppy. Emily couldn't stop shaking when she saw the last file. An email from Ryan to a new offshore partner, planning to move a larger sum next quarter. A sum that would absolutely get noticed. That was when she turned to me and said, "Kevin, what do we do?" I looked down at the screen. The names. The numbers. The stolen trust. "They took our marriages," I said. "They don't get to take our futures too. We go to the feds." The next morning, we walked into Diane Cooper's office, my lawyer. She reviewed everything. Didn't even blink. "This is bigger than you think," she said. "They're not just stealing from you. This is wire fraud, identity theft, conspiracy, possibly securities violations if this touched regulated accounts. The FBI will take this." Emily looked terrified. I grabbed her hand. "Steady." Diane made 2 calls. 24 hours later, we were sitting across from 2 very serious agents in an unmarked office. They listened, asked questions, took our file. Then one of them said, "You two need to stay close to them. Let them keep thinking everything's normal. We'll do the rest." Emily looked at me that night like she didn't know whether to be relieved or terrified. I just said, "Let's burn them down. Together." And that's how the revenge story became something else. The man who took everything from me was about to lose more than he could imagine. Because now the FBI was watching. Ryan had no idea. He still smiled the same way when he walked into the building. Still kissed Emily on the cheek in the cafeteria, like nothing was wrong. Like he wasn't about to be the star of a federal case file. But something had changed, and he could feel it, even if he didn't know what it was. Emily played her part like a pro. She smiled. She came home on time. She even cooked dinner twice, which she hadn't done in over a year. She told me it felt like pretending to love a ghost. "He's not even careful anymore," she told me over the phone. "He keeps using the same laptop for everything. He thinks I'm stupid. He wasn't wrong about one thing. He had been careful. First. Now, he was arrogant, overconfident, reckless. He didn't know he was already flagged on 3 government watch lists. Didn't know that the company network was being cloned and monitored live. Didn't know his every login, every message, every fake transaction was being duplicated in a federal folder with his name on it. And then he made a mistake. He got greedy. He initiated a new transfer larger than the others. It was subtle, spread across 5 client names, none of whom actually existed. Except one of them did. One of the names he used was my uncle. Ryan must have found him in my archived records. Maybe he thought the account had been closed. Maybe he didn't care. But it was still open. And I still had access. That gave the agents what they needed. Wire fraud across state lines. And Emily? She was officially cleared. The agents thanked her for her cooperation, said they'd keep her name out of the media, even promised to flag her file as a whistleblower, not a suspect. But that didn't matter to her. What mattered was what came next. "You ready for this?" I asked her one night as we sat in the van outside their usual lunch spot, watching. "I've been ready since the day I found that first fake statement," she said. "You?" I looked at Ryan through the window. He was laughing about something. Probably a joke that wasn't his. Probably some line he'd used on Lisa too. "Yeah, I'm ready." The takedown came 2 days later. It started with a box. Ryan received a courier envelope at work, marked private. It was a trigger file, a fake investor contact tied to a shell company the FBI had created just for him. As soon as he opened the email that followed, agents watching from another building got confirmation. He initiated the transfer. He clicked authorize. That was it. At 9:21 a.m., 4 men in suits walked through the Metrotech lobby. 2 agents headed to Ryan's floor. One went to security to block access. The 4th walked directly to Lisa's office. By 9:26, Ryan was in handcuffs. By 9:27, Lisa tried to run. But the elevator doors didn't open. When they marched her past the reception desk, she was crying, begging someone to listen, saying it was all a mistake, that she didn't know what was happening. The agents didn't blink. They said nothing. Emily watched it all from the mezzanine. She didn't speak, didn't cry, didn't smile. She just watched. And when Ryan looked up and locked eyes with her as they pushed him toward the elevator, she turned away. The news spread fast. By noon, the company had issued a press release. Metrotech wasn't going under, but they had a long road ahead. Half the finance team was under investigation. Everyone was getting audited. Meetings were canceled. Lawyers were everywhere. But the real story, that never made it to the press. Because the real story was never about money. It was about people. Later that week, Emily came to my apartment. Not to talk. Not to analyze. She just sat beside me, silent, as we watched the local news. Eventually, she spoke. It's over. Not quite, I said. There's still one more thing. What? I turned to her. I think it's time we take our lives back. She didn't answer. She just leaned her head on my shoulder. And we sat there in the quiet. Two people who had lost everything. And were finally about to start something real. They thought we were finished. They thought handcuffs and headlines were the end of the story. But that was just the opening move. Ryan and Lisa didn't go quietly. Within 48 hours of their arrest, Ryan's attorney started spinning fabricated evidence, company vendetta. My client is the victim of an internal power struggle. Lisa backed it up with tears in front of a federal magistrate, claiming she had no idea what was going on. They played the sympathy card hard. Ryan wore a borrowed suit to court, clean-shaven and soft-spoken, like a school principal on trial for forgetting to lock the gym. Lisa dressed down like a grieving widow. The story they sold was that they were just two people caught in a corporate trap. And it was working. Too well. Emily called me the next morning. They're trying to shift the blame. I heard from HR. People are starting to wonder if I was involved. She didn't cry. Emily wasn't the crying type. But I could hear the crack in her voice, like something inside her was starting to fracture. I cleared your name with the feds, I said. That doesn't matter here, she said. People whisper. Perception is poison. And she was right. Gossip moves faster than facts. So I gave her a choice. We can disappear, or we can end this for good. She didn't even pause. End it. That night we met with Diane again. She looked at me, then Emily. I know that look, she said. You're not here for closure. You're here for fire. I slid a thumb drive across her desk. What's this? Insurance, I said. Everything we haven't released yet. Every recorded call. Every IP trace. The duplicate wire forms. And something extra. Diane opened one of the files. Her eyebrows went up. You've been busy. No, I said. I've been angry. Emily and I had spent the last 3 nights combing through every line of data we pulled before the FBI took over. Turns out, Ryan had a backup drive he thought was encrypted. He was wrong. Inside, a full directory of fake identities he used to create investment profiles. Over 200 of them. Some linked directly to Metrotech senior management. Names he used without permission to get approvals pushed through. He didn't just steal. He made everyone complicit. We had dirt on half the people in the room when he was arrested. Diane laughed. You want to make them all squirm? No, Emily said quietly. We want them to know who they backed. We released the files anonymously. 3 days later, Metrotech announced a full internal audit and hired an outside investigator. Senior executives stepped down voluntarily. Everyone who'd whispered about Emily? Silent. HR called her brave. Co-workers who had avoided her started apologizing. And Ryan? He got new charges. Because that thumb drive also included audio. Audio of a call between him and Lisa the night before their arrest. You sure we can pin this on her? He'd asked. Lisa's voice. She's naive. She won't see it coming. Ryan laughed. Perfect. We walk away clean, and she takes the hit. I saved that clip for last. We watched it together, Emily and I. No drinks. No celebration. Just the quiet realization that revenge didn't feel like a rush. Felt like peace. A week later, she showed up at my door with 2 bags and a nervous smile. I can't live there anymore, she said. You don't have to, I told her. I took her bags. Closed the door behind her. We didn't kiss. We didn't fall into each other's arms like a movie. We just sat on the couch in silence. And for the first time in months, it wasn't heavy. Felt normal. Felt like a beginning. 1 week later, we received a letter. From Ryan. Handwritten. No return address. No apology. Just 4 words. This isn't over yet. When you destroy someone like Ryan, you expect them to vanish. To take their punishment. Disappear into court dates and legal fees. And quietly fade into memory. But predators like him don't go extinct. They evolve. The letter came in a plain envelope, no postage, dropped in the mailbox by hand. For words, barely legible, like he'd written them through gritted teeth. This isn't over yet. Emily stared at it for a long time. Then she folded it, put it back in the envelope and dropped it in the trash. But I pulled it back out. Why? She asked. Because people like Ryan never bluff. I didn't say the next part out loud. He wasn't writing that letter for me. He was writing it for her. That weekend, I flew to Chicago. Diane had set up a meeting with a private investigator she trusted. Someone who specialized in high-level fraud cleanup. The kind of guy you hired when you didn't want loose ends sneaking back into your life 6 months later with a burner phone and a plan. We gave him everything, every copy, every transfer, every alias. Every person Ryan and Lisa had worked with, even if their involvement was accidental. He didn't flinch. I'll find where he's reaching from, he said. And if he's dumb enough to try again, I'll make sure the next set of charges come with steel bars. Back home, Emily was jumpy. She tried to pretend she was fine, cooked more than usual, smiled too much. She even put on music in the house, old-school soul stuff she knew I liked. But I knew the signs. Tell me what you're thinking, I said. She hesitated. Sometimes I wonder, what if he gets out? What if he finds a way to make me look like I helped him? You didn't. That doesn't matter. Perception still does. She wasn't wrong. Ryan was manipulative enough to twist anything. And Lisa? She'd flip on anyone if it meant shaving a few years off her sentence. All they had to do was suggest Emily benefited financially, and the whispers would start all over again. That's when I made my decision. I called Diane the next morning and told her I was taking the job offer in Denver. It had come weeks earlier, launching a new investment branch in a quieter market. It wasn't just about work. It was about getting Emily out of the blast zone. I told her over dinner. She froze. You're leaving. I want you to come with me. Her eyes searched mine like she was reading fine print in a contract. Then, finally, she said, Do you want to run? Or start over? Both, I said. She didn't answer right away. She stood, walked to the window, looked out over the neighborhood we both hated. The grocery store she never went to anymore. The building where she used to feel safe. The people who used to smile at her and now avoided eye contact. Then she turned around. I'll pack tonight. We left quietly. No goodbye parties. No notes. No trails. 2 weeks later, we were in Denver. New jobs. New apartment. New city that didn't know who we were or what we'd been through. And for a while, it worked. Life got quiet, peaceful, normal, until New Year's Eve. We were at a cozy little bar near downtown. Just the two of us. There was music, laughter, strangers kissing their partners at midnight. For once, we weren't thinking about courtrooms or hard drives or forged wire transfers. We were just Mark and Emily. She leaned in, kissed me, and said, We made it. I smiled. Yeah, we really did. Then I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out a box. Small, black, clean. Her eyes widened. I was going to wait, I said. But this feels right. I opened the box. A ring. Nothing flashy. Just something simple, elegant, like her. She covered her mouth with both hands. I didn't ask. I just said, Stay with me. For real. No more ghosts. No more plans. Just us. She didn't answer right away. She reached up, touched my face, then whispered, Yes. We kissed. The bar counted down. Confetti flew. But just as we turned to raise our glasses, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. One message. Thought you could run? You know that feeling when your skin goes cold before your brain catches up? That's what hit me the moment I read that message. Thought you could run? I didn't show Emily. Not yet. I just slipped the phone back into my pocket and kissed her one more time. Held her closer than I ever had. Because I already knew whatever peace we'd built was about to be tested. Back at the apartment, I opened the message again. No attachments. Just that line. But it was the number that got me. A burner, sure. But the area code? Chicago. I sent a screenshot to Diane. She responded in minutes. Don't respond. Don't delete. I'm on it. 2 hours later, she called. Her voice was low, clipped, serious. The message wasn't from Ryan. I sat down. Then who? We traced the signal through 2 bounce points. Final origin came from a coffee shop Wi-Fi router in Chicago. Guess who had a parole hearing the week before? I didn't say it. She did. Lisa. I stared out the window, fists clenched. That snake didn't crawl away. She slithered back into range. Diane continued. She's not supposed to leave the state without permission. This, if we prove it, violates parole. But we need more. I didn't sleep that night. Emily asked what was wrong, and I told her it was just work stress. I hated lying, but I wasn't ready to pull her back into this. The next day, I went to a nearby electronics shop and bought a second phone. A ghost line. I sent one message to the burner. What do you want? No reply. But later that night, the second phone rang. Blocked number. I answered. Silence. Then a voice I hadn't heard in a long time. You really think you won? Lisa. She sounded different. Tired. Smokier. Like bitterness had replaced whatever charm she used to fake. You took everything from me, she said. You gave it away, I replied. I want what I'm owed. I almost laughed. You're owed nothing. Oh, I think I am. Ryan didn't tell me everything. You have files, don't you? Proof. Backups. Copies of what we did. Silence on my end. I want them destroyed, she continued. Or I start talking. I leaned forward. Talking to who? To the press. To the feds. To Emily's new employers. She was bluffing. I knew it, but it still made my jaw tighten. And what will you say? I asked. That you were part of a multi-state fraud ring, and now you want revenge on your ex-husband and his new fiancée? Sounds airtight. Lisa laughed, low and bitter. You're not as safe as you think. The call ended. I called Diane immediately. She's fishing, Diane said. But the threat's real. She wants immunity. She'll burn everyone to save herself. Emily walked in as I hung up. What's going on? She asked. You're different. Distant. Couldn't lie anymore. Lisa contacted me. The look on her face wasn't fear. It was fury. She doesn't get to do this again. We sat down together and I laid everything out. The message, the call, the veiled threats. Then Emily stood up, walked to the closet, and pulled out the folder she'd kept sealed since the arrests. The one marked, last line. Inside, backups, emails, password lists, metadata logs, financial trails, proof. What are you doing? I asked. She handed them to me. We end this. Completely. That night, we sent everything to Diane. Every last trace. We were done playing defense. 2 days later, Lisa violated her parole again. Caught on camera meeting with someone at a rental office under a fake name. Diane turned the footage over to the authorities. The agent on her case reopened her file. A warrant was issued. She ran. But when they finally caught her outside Milwaukee, guess what they found? A suitcase, a burner phone, and a thumb drive labeled Emily/Kevin Leverage. Inside it, nothing new, just desperation. They dragged her back in cuffs. Second arrest. No more parole. This time, no lawyers came to her rescue. That night, Emily and I opened a bottle of wine. Think she'll try again? She asked. No, I said. She's done. We toasted in silence. And as I looked at the woman across from me, the one they tried to ruin, the one who survived it all, I realized something. They hadn't just lost. They'd made us bulletproof. But just as I blew out the candle on the table, my second phone buzzed. New number. New message. She wasn't the only one watching. That message chilled me in a way Lisa's threats never had. She wasn't the only one watching. Who else was keeping tabs? And why now? Emily leaned over as I stared at the screen. What is it? I turned the phone toward her. Her eyes darkened. Not her? She asked. No. This is someone new. We both sat in silence. The message wasn't just ominous, it was surgical. Someone had been waiting, watching, possibly from the start. I called Diane. She picked up on the first ring. I need to meet. Now. We sat in Diane's office an hour later, snow swirling outside. She read the message, lips pressed into a thin line. Looks like someone else has been monitoring this operation from the shadows. My guess? Someone involved in the laundering network Ryan set up. You cut off the head, but not the tail. Emily looked tense. But Ryan's in custody. Lisa's going away. Who else could it be? Diane turned her laptop toward us. On the screen, a name neither of us recognized. Matthew Stone. Former Metrotech contractor. Data systems. Contract terminated just before the investigation broke wide. No charges filed. No assets frozen. He'd quietly disappeared. But here's the twist, he was Ryan's firewall. The guy who helped them forge credentials and scrub logs. Not because he liked them, but because they paid him. Well, now the money was gone and so was his paycheck. Diane leaned in. My guess? He's got copies of the files. Maybe dirt on other clients. If he's reaching out now, he wants leverage. Emily spoke up. What kind of leverage? Diane hesitated. Blackmail. Or a deal. And if he's smart, he'll try to look like a whistleblower before we get to him first. We left the office with a list of places Stone had lived, worked, logged in from. I called in another favor, a private investigator I knew from my old firm who still owed me for getting his son's college fund untangled. He tracked Stone in 48 hours. Small studio apartment in Boulder. Cameras on every corner. Paranoia through the roof. He'd moved cash through altcoins, was off-grid on social media, and hadn't used a legal name in months. But he'd made one mistake. He ordered a pizza using his real email. We had him. I didn't want to call the FBI yet. I wanted to know what Stone wanted. What he had. Whether this was an actual threat or just noise. So I texted him. You watching? Then you know I don't bluff. Let's talk. He replied 3 minutes later. Meet me alone. No cops. No lawyer. 1 hour. Address to follow. I showed Emily. She didn't like it. Neither did Diane. But I was tired of shadows. Tired of strings. The meeting spot was a coffee shop tucked behind an old bookstore. I walked in, scanned the booths. He was there. Hoodie. Glasses. Laptop bag hugged close like a bomb. He didn't stand when I sat. You're bold, he said. Most people in your position would have run. I've done enough running. He smiled. They used me too. Ryan. Lisa. Everyone. But you cleaned it all up. You're the last man standing. What do you want? Same thing you do. To be free. I stared at him. You already are. No. I got files you didn't get. I want immunity. Witness protection. Trade for everything I have. You should be talking to the FBI. I talk to them, I lose control. I talk to you. I get a clean exit. Then he slid a drive across the table. Samples, he said. Enough to prove what I've got. Real client names. Offshore account trails. Ones that weren't in your files. What's stopping me from handing this to the feds the second I walk out? Nothing. He grinned. But if you do, the rest goes dark. You'll never find the rest of what Ryan and Lisa buried. I stood. Took the drive. I'll think about it. No, you won't, he said. You'll act. Because you're not just angry anymore. You're addicted. That line stuck in my head the whole drive home. Was he right? Was this still about justice? Or was it something darker now? Emily was waiting at the window when I got back. She didn't ask for details. Just walked over and took my hand. You okay? She asked. I looked her in the eye. No, I said. But I will be. I handed her the drive. She plugged it in. What we saw on that screen changed everything. The scam had reached further than we ever knew. Higher up, deeper in. And our names? They were still inside it. I stared at the screen like it was a loaded gun aimed at my future. Our names. Both of them. Mark and Emily. Buried inside a ledger linked to offshore accounts. Funneled through aliases we'd never seen before. They made it look like we were in on it from the beginning. Emily leaned forward. Those dates. They line up with the first fake transfers. I zoomed in. Account trails. Amounts. metadata. All there. As if we had helped Ryan and Lisa steal from Metrotech and launder the money ourselves. They forged this, I said. They had to. Yeah, she whispered. But to someone who doesn't know the truth, it was damning. I called Diane. They left a trap, I told her. A final insurance policy. If they ever needed to drag us down with them, this was their play. Stone hadn't brought us this to help. He brought it to remind us he still held power. He wanted us scared, cooperative, grateful. I'm done with threats, I said. Then let's finish it, Diane replied. That night, Diane filed a motion under seal with the Department of Justice. The contents? Every file Stone gave us, plus the timeline, our evidence, surveillance from the coffee shop, and a copy of the message. She wasn't the only one watching. The case shifted overnight from simple fraud to organized digital conspiracy. The feds moved fast. 3 days later, Stone was arrested leaving his apartment. He didn't fight. He didn't talk. Just laughed when the cuffs clicked shut. Tell Mark I said hi. The agents found 2 more drives in his safe. One loaded with raw stolen data. The other, video. A cache of secretly recorded calls between Ryan, Lisa, and Metrotech executives. People at the top knew, helped, profited. This wasn't 2 bad apples. This was a rotten orchard. And it was finally being burned to the ground. Metrotech collapsed within a week. Trading halted. Accounts frozen. A third of the executive team resigned in disgrace. Class action suits flooded in from clients who'd been duped without even knowing it. But Emily? She was cleared. Officially. Publicly. Her name removed from every file. Diane even made sure the Department of Justice released a statement. Emily Harper acted as a key whistleblower in exposing a complex corporate fraud network. Without her cooperation, this case may never have been uncovered. When she read it, she didn't cry. She exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for a year. I can finally stop looking over my shoulder, she said. I walked over, wrapped my arms around her, and whispered, no. Now we look forward. A few months later, we moved again. Not out of fear, not out of shame. We just wanted quiet. A mountain town, clean air, real people, no headlines, no ghosts, just us. Emily took a job at a local firm. Small, honest, full of people who still shook hands and meant it. I started a business of my own. Nothing big, just enough to keep my hands moving. We got married in a courthouse. No guests, no rings we couldn't afford. Just a promise. No more lies. And every year on New Year's Eve, we take a bottle of champagne out to the porch. We toast to truth, to survival, to building something that can't be faked. I still get calls sometimes. Journalists, true crime podcasters, even a streaming docuseries once. They want to know how it felt to destroy the people who tried to destroy us. I always say the same thing. We didn't destroy them. They did that to themselves. We just made sure the world saw it. And that message they sent me? She wasn't the only one watching. They were right, because now, I watch everyone. Thank you to everyone who listened to the end, and thank you for the likes. But your feedback is more important. It will help me improve.